Hello and welcome to Derry. I'm Lindsey Dunn, your host of the One of My Stories podcast, and with me today is your other host from the Sweet Child of Time podcast. The two of us had plans to open a new place to blow off steam that we were going to call the Teal Triangle, but neither one of us likes cleaning. It's Steve Barnes. Ahoy, Steve.
Hey, ahoy there, Lindsey. Speak for yourself. I love to clean. I got a clean car. I got a clean room. I got a clean house. I love to clean, Lindsey. Not you?
No, some cleaning I enjoy. Other cleaning I don't. I don't enjoy cleaning my bathroom. And I get tired of doing dishes because I have to do them every day since I don't have a dishwasher.
They need some extra hands over at like this new spot at the military base. A bunch of dudes are putting some stuff together. They need help cleaning out their old garage. You want to go help them out?
I don't know anything about that. We were going to open the Teal Triangle. So
yes. We'll stick to the Teal Triangle then, whatever that is.
But this week, we decided to bring in some reinforcements.
Yeah.
Someone who really knows what he's doing. If I need backup, I'm not going to call JFK or RFK. I'm going to call Reed Lackey. Ahoy, Reed.
Hey, guys. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for joining us. Now,
thank you for having me.
Yes, you've been fighting the good fight against Pennywise for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
So please introduce your good work to our listeners.
Certainly. So I am wearing, listeners can't see it, but I am wearing my Losers Club
dope
hoodie specifically with bike in hand. No, I am one of the co-hosts along with my good friend of 2 decades plus, Nathan Rouse, over at the Fear of God podcast. And we cover horror films. It expands beyond just horror to thriller and sometimes even just movies, but from the lens of faith and philosophy and spirituality. And you both have been on the show when we enjoyed our David Lynch series, which we had a grand time with. We keep saying that we hope listeners had as much fun in that series as we had in that series. But so that's where you can find all of my work, and I'm super privileged and thrilled to be here today.
Yeah, I follow you on Instagram too, the Fear of God podcast, and I've seen a lot of your fans with smiling faces and places like libraries. So I know they're listening. I know you're keeping people happy over there.
That's right. Oh God, I love a library. Yep, me and libraries, we get along so well. It's like
you
my
came
home
to the
away
right
from
place.
home. That's right. I love it.
Libraries, bookstores, and now there's ads at the movie theater in Charlotte, I guess, I've heard.
Yes. So during October specifically, you could have, if you attended the Independent Picture House inside Charlotte, you would have been graced in one of those like preliminary ads with one of the big picture, kind of an homage to Looney Tunes of my mug and Nathan's mug in cartoonish form jumping out of that center. So that was super cool for us. I gotta be honest that I geeked out tremendously at that. So it was really great.
I would have geeked out too. I would have been like, "Oh, look what's up! I know them." Yeah,
I know. Like, I get a profound sense of connection when I see somebody that I know that's doing something on screen. So I would have been right there with you, Lindsey. I know that dude.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was really fun, and we've made some connections over at the Independent Picture House. We love what they do, and we're happy to, where we can, to buddy up with them and talk more about the show and promote more on the show about what they're doing. So it's really cool.
Okay. Well, we're glad to have you, Reed, and
Thank
we're
you.
here at episode 4 of Welcome to Derry, the great swirling apparatus of our planet's function. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Reed, what were your overall reactions to this episode?
So I have been really in for this show. It has gone in waves of like enjoying it to really liking it, a couple of moments I love. I have not yet landed on a singular episode which has just made me run tell everybody, but I really have minimal complaints. I think the first episode particularly, and this is kind of threaded through, and then I'll get to episode 4 specifically, is I do think there are some pacing issues. I feel the length of every episode. That's not to say that it's boring. I really want to make a distinction here. It's like I'm never really bored in the show, but I can feel constantly this pull of how much longer do we have in the episode? Wait, how much longer? And when I have the impulse to check the time, that to me, in my sensibilities, usually indicates maybe the pacing is not as tight as it could be. It's not as propulsive as I would love it to be. And I felt that carried through in episode 4. But every single episode has delivered at least a couple of, oh my God, shocks. And I can't believe they put that on screen. This one featured, the first time that the show has actually legit jump scared me. I'm usually a little impervious to those kind of things, but
Nice.
one of the scares in this genuinely got me. And I do appreciate how things are starting to come together and start to connect. We're starting to really see how some of our characters we've spent time with are beginning to buddy up together and get a little bit of clarity on their mission and what their obstacles are. So I do like that the show feels like its vision is coming into fruition, even if I wasn't as super enthused about this particular episode as I was, say, specifically episodes 2 and 3, which sort of hit the high mark for me in terms of overall entertainment, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Steve? Where do you land on this episode? I know last week you were really bummed about that cemetery scene.
Yeah, I was bummed because, it wasn't a terrible episode, but there were a couple things, kind of like Reed said, there's a couple moments that take me out. The checking your clock. And that's not a great thing for a show to have that, but it happens. So episode 3, there was just a couple of real slight hiccups along the way, but nothing major. But then when the cemetery scene hit me, and then they were looking at those pictures at the end. And as I told you before, Lindsey, I was kind of disappointed how they were so blurry to us, the viewers. So I ended that episode on a real sour note. And I didn't really appreciate it until second watch. So this episode 4, this swirling apparatus, blah, 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 it did the exact opposite. It finished real strong. So that's what I was left with was this great ending, a great intriguing ending as well, and then fade to black, then go to some Native American music. So this really ended strong. So despite anything I saw up until that point, when you finish strong, that's a real good thing for a TV show to do. I mean, all in all, great lore, some great acting. There was some poor acting from the kids as well, but I saw some real high tier acting from one individual, which I'll get into later. So yeah, real strong for me. I don't have many complaints at all. The ones I do, y'all will be sure to hear them as we go along. So that leads you back to you, Lindsey. So, how are you liking this episode?
Well, I will share in a moment. I guess I wanted to hear what you guys had to say about this title, though. I don't know. Is it referring to something specific? Or is it just their attempt to be fancy? What is this great swirling apparatus?
I love that you're asking this because every episode, I'm like, we forgot to discuss the title of the episode and what it means. So thank you for doing this. I kind of believe that, it's something the science teacher said off the cuff, but I think it kind of represents possibly Maturin the turtle and it from the universal aspect. It could definitely tie in with our millions of years aspect to Derry that we got this episode. What do you think there, Reed?
I don't know. I will be candid that I feel like it didn't connect as a specific reference point, but the Stephen King universe is vast. And though I have read pretty much every major published work and a couple of off-kilter, harder to find works, I'm not an academic scholar of Stephen King's universe the way so many people are, to be able to just pull these references. Oh, that was in this. I've read most of his books once and a handful of them twice. So I don't know if the Great Swirling Apparatus of Our Planet's Function is specifically a callback to something someone says. It might be, but I think in this case, it might just be trying to, as you said, Steve, speak to the sort of the cosmic nature of how this is all very expansive and there's a lot of moving puzzle pieces. And it did feel like maybe it was trying to be a little bit fancy. Listeners can check me in some feedback next week on if there was a specific reference that I'm not catching or that I'm not remembering.
I'd like to hear that too, yeah.
I think for me, I was just like, what is this, a Pink Floyd song? I don't know, or a Pink Floyd album.
Yeah.
That's right.
The only reason I didn't, this is the first episode title that's been slightly confusing, Steve. Most of them to me, now you see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there hasn't been much to say, really. I'm like, pretty straightforward. But, well, you'll enjoy this, Steve. This is what I like to call a barns burner of an episode. I like this episode a lot. I feel like we've left the safety zone of previous historical records. Up until this point with the Welcome to Derry show, they've sort of been bringing in these pockets of history we've already gotten. And I feel like now it's sort of a little bit of a Wild West. And that's kind of an exciting place to be, that they are able to be a little more creative. And we're at fresh content. The Muschietis and their team are really dealing in no safety nets here. They're having to create this stuff from scratch while keeping the end in mind and bringing in more history, even from the Genesis story. It's a wide open space, and that's scary and exciting. They can feel free to take those training wheels off, but I do think there's more room for people to poke at any hint of weakness. But right now, I didn't see any. I enjoyed how this ended. I enjoyed the lore of this 20-minute story about the Shokopiwa. I'm trying to say that. But anyway, I enjoyed that they spent that amount of time on it. And I feel like too often we've seen people do Indigenous stories poorly or make them so skimpy, and they really opened up that universe and spent a good deal of time on it. So I was happy.
Let me take this moment to congratulate you, Lindsey, because you've correctly guessed that it was Dick Halloran that was part of the beat up crew, and you got that one right. And you've been really nipping on this thing about this Native American losers club. And I'm like, oh, pshaw. But here we go, Lindsey, you win. You got it. So I was thinking of you for sure when I saw this.
Yeah, that was exciting. There were some things we predicted correctly, some things we didn't. Chief Bowers and the other adults didn't see the images. You nailed that, Steve.
That was easy, low-hanging fruit, I would say, though.
Yeah. Will ending up telling Charlotte about the Grogan issue and that kind of getting her in with Hank. And yeah, the Indigenous Losers Club to the rescue.
Yeah, totally.
That was really awesome.
Yeah. So we're now on to the Easter egg hunt, Kitchener Ironworks Easter egg hunt. Now, we're going to do this, guys, but I have to tell you, I'm entering this Easter egg hunt a little bit grumpy and cynical because I feel like the definition of Easter eggs has gotten really skewered in this show, and people are making a video of 54 Easter eggs. It's like, okay, dudes, a red balloon is not an Easter egg because Easter eggs are slightly hidden. They're things they're things that only they're things that only certain people kind of recognize if they're really invested in the world, and people finding 54 Easter eggs makes it kind of less exciting. All right, so we do have some though, and I recognize that I might have less than either one of you two, but
it's a competition. Yeah, totally a competition. Who has the most wins all the eggs?
I will lose this one. I found a total of 2 eggs in this. I
try not to make it a competition, but Steve keeps insisting it is a competition. But Reed, since you're the guest, we're going to let you go first. So what's your one?
Well, I feel like I'm probably coming in with this whole oh my gosh, Reed's going to know everything there is to know about Stephen King and everything. But I don't really. I honestly, the only thing that I could find that I think you haven't already touched on in the show before was in the bike ride going through Derry. I did notice a couple of storefronts that stood out. Not only did let me consult my notes here. Not only did I notice Quality Meats, which was more heavily featured earlier in the show, but there was also Jade of the Orient, I thought I saw, which is infamously from It Chapter 2 or from the miniseries and from the novel when the losers, our original losers, if we will, reconverge as adults and they go to that restaurant and Pennywise sort of freaks them out with all the fortune cookies. I noticed that. And then also, so this is a possible, but with a question mark. So I thought I saw Nan's Luncheonette there as well. And
you did, yes.
And so if I did, here's where my brain hiccuped. Again, I'm probably not the Stephen King expert my reputation would have me be. I'm pretty sure Nan's Luncheonette was in Castle Rock. Is it in both? My association with Nan's Luncheonette is a Castle Rock establishment.
Yes.
And we are here in Derry. So do either of you know, is that, does it show up both places? Is there, yeah. So that threw me for a loop. I was like, wait a second, is that a mistake? Is it an intentional tweaking of things? Was there a Nan's Luncheonette in both places? And I don't have that answer in my pocket and couldn't research it before I joined. So do either of you know?
I can't say for certain. It absolutely is in Stephen King's work in Castle Rock. I don't remember it showing up in Derry. I just recognize it as a Stephen King Easter egg.
Yeah.
But those are some solid eggs you brought, though, man. Those are some really nice ones.
Well, thank you. So it was really all just centered around that one scene. I thought I saw both of those places, but Nan's Luncheonette is the only one that threw me. If there's an astute listener who knows, Nan's Luncheonette is in both places. Where I would definitively, if I were answering a trivia question, is Nan's Luncheonette from Castle Rock or Derry, I would have firmly said Castle Rock, because I feel like the Luncheonette is quite prominently featured in specifically Needful Things, which we've covered on my show before. So I'm very familiar with that. But yeah, anyway, that's what I have to bring to the table.
Right on.
Good deal. You want to give your first one, Steve?
Sure. Yeah. I think Reed gave up all his Easter eggs. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that your whole basket?
That's it. I apologize. Yeah,
that's okay. We pass it around, but that's okay. But that's
so. Okay. That's all I have to offer. I will just yes and amen all of yours from here.
Well, this is one of these that Lindsey will probably say this is not an Easter egg, but I think it is, because last week we saw those kids riding their bikes on the green screen so predominantly, and it was so goofy. This week we saw the kids really, you said it before, really riding their bikes through town, really throwing their bikes down in front of their houses and stuff. So I was really happy that we saw some real bike riding this week. I was looking out for it.
Okay. Well, my first one is at the fishing scene, the You'll Burn To. That's, You'll Float To Easter egg.
Sure.
Connecting those two verbiages there.
I'll go right from that same scene too. Right before he says you'll float there, we see a koi fish float up to him, which a koi fish, of course, is also known as a clownfish. So I think that's quite deliberate.
I said it. It's so funny. I should have written that down, because I said to my wife in the moment, I was like, that's a clownfish. I'm a big Finding Nemo fan. And I was like, that's a clownfish. And I knew. I was like, that's intentional.
Absolutely.
Very clever. Okay. The weapon that is mentioned in the story, the indigenous story, the shard, that is in the It Part 2 movie. That's like what Mike Hanlon presents to the Losers Club for helping do this ritual of Chud.
I really got to rewatch those movies, I guess, because I'm missing out on lots of these Easter eggs.
That whole indigenous segment is pretty interesting, especially with this episode. Yeah.
Will Hanlon, little junior historian. We see the first glimpses of him becoming the town historian when he's the first kid to suggest looking into Derry's history to see if there's any past, kids missing. So that was my little Hanlon Easter egg.
Mm-hmm. So my next one is also with the indigenous segment. They show this deer with the stag. And I thought this was in a way connected to the Wendigo. This is a thing in at least two stories, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon and Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
And as I was researching this is a thing that indigenous people tend to fear. And they mention that, of course, Pennywise, it appears as the thing that the people fear the most. And they mention in the story that it's what these people fear the most. And so it connects to these other books.
Maybe James can go and edit last week's podcast, because remember when I was fumbling for the name of a book? I was like, it's a book called The Girl Who Loved somebody. I couldn't remember the person's name. So that's what it was. So yeah, go back and edit episode 3 and fix it. My next one is, I thought this was a funny one. There was a keep out sign on what will be the black spot eventually. So I thought that was hilarious that there was a little keep out sign right there. I was like, you guys should probably heed warning.
I guess that'd be good advice. The rest of them, I don't really think they're real Easter eggs, but
you don't? What about Flanagan? What about Tim Flanagan? Yes.
That's not a real Easter egg.
Yes, it is. Because when Mike Flanagan did his whole Haunting of Hill House, he was like, this person's name's Steve after Stephen King. This person's name's Shirley after Shirley Jackson. So I think they were like, okay, let's throw in a Flanagan over here for Mike Flanagan. I swear. Reed, what do you think?
Well, I would disbelieve you if Mike Flanagan had not so built so much of his reputation on Stephen King adaptations specifically. Like, he's got the new Carrie show coming out.
Yeah.
He made Gerald's Game. He made Dr. Sleep. He's done what other people said was seemingly impossible before. They considered Gerald's Game an unfilmable book, and he did it with a movie I really enjoyed a lot. They considered that nobody could ever reconcile King's vision of The Shining with Kubrick's vision of The Shining. Yet here we have Dr. Sleep, which I thought was really successful. So honestly, I would tend to be skeptical about that, but Flanagan is so ingrained with adaptations of Stephen King's work. I think it's probably pretty intentional. So yeah, I would agree.
Okay. The only pushback I have, besides, I already told you guys I'm grumpy about this game today, but I feel that if they were going to pay homage to Mike Flanagan, it would be better served by making a character like Mike Flanagan. And I don't see much of Mike Flanagan in this jock in the lunchroom. But
no, you're right about that.
That is a fair point.
100%.
That is a fair point. Yes.
But in the lunchroom there, they were scaling up to do some big prank on Marge. And I think that prank is very much like a Carrie style prank.
Oh wait, well I was gonna go ahead and say that one, Steve, and you plowed ahead over me, but okay.
I thought you said you were done with yours, and that's why I plowed ahead.
I was just getting ready to say, okay, I'm gonna grab this one before Steve does, and you grabbed it before me, but that's okay. I'm done. So you can take name the rest of your Easter eggs now at this point.
Okay, tell me how wrong they are. Okay. All the doors around Dick Halloran and his little vision there were, I think that was an Easter egg from those doors of perception from the Dark Tower drawing of the Three. There was a very similar scene in the drawing of the Three to that, with the doorways leading into people's memories. That's legit.
I would buy that. Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that.
Thank you. We got a song, Can't Judge a Book by Its Cover. And this song is being played while they're fixing up the black spot. And it looks like a real piece of crap, but they're going to fix that sucker up. So you can't judge a book by its cover. I think that was a pretty neat song placement there. And yeah, you're not going to like this one, Lindsey. I guess you're not, because it's not really an Easter egg, because everybody saw it. But the reason I'm mentioning it is because the Valium that Lily produced, and she called it Mommy's Little Helper. That's why I want to bring it up, because Mommy's Little Helper did not become a popular term until around 1966. And the Rolling Stones wrote a song called that, and that made it even more popular at that time. People weren't saying that back in 1962, unless you might want to say Lily's mom invented that term, perhaps. I thought that was kind of telling, the Valium itself, which I thought was hilarious. I loved it when they pulled drugs out in school. That's awesome. And then, she calls it Mommy's Little Helper. So,
or maybe she helped start, maybe she inspired the Rolling Stones. Maybe she's the girlfriend of one of the Stones.
She looks the type, she looks the type.
I must comment, since you brought up the pills, that, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, so forgive me, but when there's a particular moment when Lily loses one of them, and where she loses it, I almost came out my chair. I was like, don't do it. It ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. It's not worth it. And then my wife was sitting there, even to defeat Pennywise. I was like, I can't believe you're even considering it. No, it's not. It's not worth it. Like, you just steel yourself, and you do not have access to that assistance anymore. It's gone. There is no way.
Wouldn't it have dissolved?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
I would
the
think
other
that
piece.
too.
It's just like, you're going to pull up powder is basically all you're going to do. But man, she was going for it. And I was like, oh, God bless, girl. Mm-hmm. Like, no, I could not.
It's like a desperate junkie in a bathroom stall, basically. That's another Easter egg, perhaps.
Oh, man. Man, oh, man. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much all mine, too. There's 2 more BS ones on here that I'm not even going to honor. So, yeah, we can move on from here.
Okay. Yeah, no need to show off our rocks at our Easter egg hunt.
That's right.
Okay. Well, we're going to move into character arcs, because that's where the really meat and potatoes of these episodes always are.
Absolutely.
So we've had 1 week where we did people in order, then we did groups, and this week I couldn't figure out solid groups because there was so much interweaving of these characters.
That's right.
So we're going back to individual, but I tried to put them next to people that they had connections with.
You did a fine job. I just saw there was one missing. There was only one young man that was missing from your list, or maybe it was just missing from my cut and paste. But we'll get to him if we miss him.
Oh, okay. Well, if he's not on here, I didn't find him to be consequential, but you can feel differently. So the first one is going to be Ronnie. I don't have much to say about Ronnie here. I did want to point out that when Charlotte visits Hank Rogan's house to chat with his mom, Ronnie is lingering where she can eavesdrop. Mm-hmm. I guess she knows now that Dad wasn't really at home. Is Ronnie going to go investigate? And if so, who or what will she find at the end of that rainbow?
Okay. Yeah, you got any remarks about Ronnie here, Reed?
No, nothing much. It's interesting because she's right up top, but I agree with Lindsey. Like, there's not a ton advancing for her individually.
Yeah.
She's in the background. She's, among the collective, still a significant character. But I thought before the scene at the school cafeteria went the way that it did, I did clock that when Lily runs to the bathroom, Ronnie perks up and is paying attention to what's happening. So I thought, like, okay, if this goes badly, maybe Ronnie will intervene. But that's not the direction the scene went. So yeah, I don't have much to add about Ronnie specifically.
It didn't add much to the scene, but that's a good thing to clock because, it lets you know that Ronnie is concerned for her friend Lily.
Right.
Because she's not eating lunch with them today. She's eating lunch with Marge, so that she wants to clock that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I wrote about Ronnie here is that she's a lovely character. I wish her well. I didn't really have much to say about her either.
Good luck,
and also,
girl.
I'll bring it up now. We don't have much to say about Rich this episode. You didn't even put Rich in the characters. So I'll also say, Rich, you're a great guy. You're funny. Not much to you this week.
We'll see you next time.
Rich is in what I call the no scare zone right now. Like everybody else has had like a little personal private scare except for Rich.
That's true.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think that Rich may have his moment coming up soon. But okay, we're gonna move into Marge, and Steve, why don't you lead us off with Marge? Because I know she's your girlfriend.
She is. Well, not my girlfriend. She's a little young for me, but a protege, you might say. She plans this lunch, masterminded by the patty cakes, and she seems like she's going to be friends with Lily again. But we can see with some snide looks that the girls give each other behind Lily's back that there's some shenanigans getting ready to happen involving the aforementioned Tim Flanagan. And I think he's in on this prank too. Marge and her crew are planning to prank Lily. It's a setup, and what I like about Marge is she has second thoughts and she wants to put an end to this. So she's about to admit to Lily that she's being set up for this prank, and then she's ruefully interrupted by the spirit of it. I think for that exact same reason. I think maybe it interfered in a very timely fashion because it knew that Marge was about to, interfere with some big prank, perhaps. That's just a speculation on my part. But we're seeing a few different sides of Marge here. She wants to be friends with Lily, but she also wants to be friends with patty cakes, I should say. So she's on board with this whole Lily prank, but then she kind of goes against it and she's about to admit it. So I'm kind of got some whiplash with Marge this episode. She has our big scare scene, which of course, that stuck in my mind even more so than the Indigenous ending. But I think that's the whole long and short of what I got from Marge here, Lindsey. Did I do okay?
Yeah, you did all right.
Hey, I did okay, Reed.
3 stars.
That's good enough for me.
I noticed she was really grossed out at this school video.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was interesting. Out of everybody in the class, she was the one that had that strongest reaction.
I think that's what attracted. So I'm not going to come hard or certainly die or even get injured on this hill, but I actually think, Steve, that it wasn't necessarily that she was targeted by it because of the moment she was about to intervene, but rather what Lindsey just mentioned about her repulsion at the video. Because if you'll notice, the video was of these snails that get, a parasitic, infection, and then that infection makes their body colorful and pulsing, which attracts predators so that they can, infect other predators. Well, when it manifests for her, it makes her eyes go the same way that those snails' eyes went. Right. And so my interpretation of that was kind of like blood in the water for a shark, like her repulsion at that video sort of, put her on its radar, where it's like, oh, she's already kind of vulnerable. She's already kind of compromised. I've got a fear outlet that I can immediately tap into. And that's kind of how I interpreted the scene. I'm not going to die on that hill. I think it could be both, might be either or, but that's just, that was my interpretation of that scene. I did think I got to shout out Matilda Lawler's performance in general, because I felt like her emotionality when she was conflicted about whether or not to tell Lily felt very real, felt very believable. I don't always feel that way about these kids, even performances that I generally like, but I felt like that moment from her was pretty good, was pretty strong. So yeah, I really liked Marge getting, Marge didn't like her presence in this episode, but I really liked her presence in this episode. So
I wonder too if, Marge is really just a tool for Pennywise to be able to get Lily again, because Lily's the one that's, of course I can't say Marge wasn't impacted. She was impacted. She got, what happens to her is pretty terrible. Yeah. But I do wonder now what's going to happen. Is she going to continue to be a good friend to Lily that by telling the people it wasn't her fault, or will she find herself in the same situation Lily did, where the adults don't believe anything she says and thinks she's just covering for her friend Lily so that she doesn't have to go back? I'm really hoping that this doesn't mean, although I suspect it does, that the future does not look good for Lily. Yeah. I have a feeling it's not going to end well for her. So
another prediction. Solid one from Lindsey.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move into Lily.
Yep.
Something I noticed about her is she's undergoing a pretty big personality shift. In episode 1 and a lot of 2, she seems to be overwhelmed with sadness. But as times have gone on, she's sort of taking a page from Ronnie's book and standing up for herself and losing her temper. She really lost her temper in the police office of Chief Bowers. And I was kind of surprised. This is an aside. So that's one thought, that she's sort of undergoing a personality shift. The other is that I was surprised she seemed so interested. This whole thing about her being excited about this boy's attention did seem a little plot driven. It didn't read as authentic, because she doesn't strike me as boy crazy or the type that's even interested in boys. She's been someone with more important things on her mind. So that didn't exactly work for me, except for to get her believing this prank that they were trying to pull on her.
No, 10-4. That's really astute, because I didn't even clock that. And now that you mention it, it's like so blatant. I'm sad I missed it. Because it does seem like an obvious plot turner and not really true to her character.
The only inch of grace that I will give it is she is a character who has craved acceptance and belonging for so long that I could see. I do think, first off, I completely agree with Lindsey's take. I think that it was too much of a character shift too fast, but I can sit with that attraction of like, oh, somebody likes me, unrelated to all of this other stuff that's going on. I could see her being, attracted to that and drawn to that. I just think is probably handled a bit in a way that was more plot heavy than really true to the character. But they probably could have layered it out a little bit differently that would have made the moment a little bit more believable. Like maybe she's initially skeptical. Are you sure? And then a second interaction may go, oh, maybe. But instead it all happens right there, because that's what the story needs to happen. So, yeah.
I do think it's more interesting if she's not just sad all the time. So I like the fact, I wasn't saying it was a bad thing that she's doing this personality shift, because she's friends with Ronnie. She's seeing the reason things ended up they did is she wasn't standing up for her friend, and she knows that now. So she's trying to correct that by speaking out in the cop's office. So I thought that part was believable. It was only the boy thing that I thought was a little unbelievable, except for just wanting attention. But yeah, go ahead, Steve.
I agree.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I kind of like got on board with you like in real time there, because that's not something that I noticed during the episode as unusual. So when you pointed it out as unusual, I kind of jumped on it. So like, you know, that was my real time reaction there, agreeing with you. And I still do think, I still think it's a strong point. It is a little out of character, but it's also in character for 13-year-olds to be gaga about boys or girls. I want to say something positive about Lily, though, because like she is almost like the de facto leader of the group at this point. She's the one that leads the case in the police station, at least until Rich tries to interrupt her. Lily is the one doing most of the talking. She is the one that kind of clocks that it likes to scare them as like predator and prey. And, you know, she notices that possibility. And then she also, once again, just like last episode, she doesn't come to the group with an idea like half-assed. She comes to an idea like with, you know, items at hand. Like she had been thinking about bringing this volume, and she had like been contemplating this and giving this out to the kids. Just like last time, like she didn't just tell Ronnie sorry. She was like, I'm sorry, and I have a camera, and we're going to get your dad out of jail. So once again, Lily is kind of, you know, almost like has some leadership qualities.
Mm-hmm. So let's move on to Ingrid. I don't know if I just wanted to give room to talk about her since she's a person of interest.
Mm-hmm.
Is she real? This is what I'm starting to wonder. Like I used to think that she was like a manifestation of it, and she's like, you know, like, oh no. But now I'm almost like, is she a guardian angel? Is like because she's like giving this good advice to Lily. She's not like telling Lily what to do, but she's encouraging her to hang out with her friends, encouraging her to keep digging and look up stuff. I don't know. I can't figure her out at this point. Last week I thought she was a demon. This week I think she's an angel. What are you guys thinking? Reed, how about you?
So, yeah, I think you might be onto something. It is standing out to me, even only 2 moments in, that nobody interacts with her but Lily.
Right. Yes.
So, you know, this theory will go completely away if in the next couple of episodes we see her in a collective scene where other people are engaging with her. But the fact that she has only been present with Lily and only interacted with Lily, I wondered the same thing. I'm still on the train that I don't totally trust her, that I think she might be a Trojan horse of sorts by it to basically infiltrate and undermine things. For instance, like I do feel like she does give some advice that appears helpful, but nothing that she's actually offered yet has actually progressed them towards their actual goal,
right?
Which also stands out to me. So I just, I wonder, it does feel significant that she may not be a real character. If she is a benevolent character, then I think it is such that we just haven't received enough information to really understand what her end game is. But I'm still on the train that she's a manifestation of it that will reveal itself later.
The doctor in Juniper Hill does mention that she's befriended this housekeeper, but it could also be that he just hears Lily say she's befriended a housekeeper, and he's like, okay, but he doesn't mean this one in particular. So that's an interesting theory that she's perhaps just an invisible person that Lily talks to.
We've seen too many movies where that's a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sixth Sense completely spoiled us. It's like, who else is interacting with the person?
Yep.
So, yep.
Sweet Shot of Time is brought to you by Zencastr. Zencastr is the way we record Sweet Shot of Time. We hook up with our guests via video and we record it, on audio. Recently, we've been doing video podcasts with the cast of Time Bandits. It's easy using Zencastr. You can record video or audio. You can also edit your podcast or your video via Zencastr. Join Zencastr using my promo code Sweet Child of Time, and you can get 30% off Zencastr. If you're ready to start your podcast, it's time to share your story. Share it with Zencastr. That promo code, once again, Sweet Child of Time at Zencastr.com.
Okay, let's move on to Will. And Reed, would you like to lead us off for Will?
So yes, and if I may, my feelings about Will directly tie into my feelings about Leroy. So I will just mention that I love the character of Will. I love Blake Cameron James. I think he's really doing a really good job. He's immediately endearing. Like whenever the kid's on screen, I just like the kid. And I feel like he does a really good job of conveying. You heard me mention this with the character of Marge as well, but like characters, it's really, really tough, even for adults as actors, to convey believable emotion. And I feel like Will does a really good job of feeling scared without acting scared. So you get the sense that he's really terrified without overacting it. And of course, the moment that his dad went to the car for the baby, I was like, don't do that. Like,
yep.
I was like, do not leave this poor kid. I was like, and you could see it coming 5 miles away.
Yes.
So I will spare, because he's next in the sequence, I will spare my thoughts specifically around Leroy. But yeah, I really felt like the Easter egg that you mentioned, Steve, like Will sort of coming into his own, connecting to the greater Hanlon legacy as it pertains to the mythology of it. I feel like they're doing a really good job there. But he's just also just a really likable kid. He's just a great kid.
Mm-hmm. Steve, what do you think?
I disagree a little bit about in this particular episode, because I usually like Will. He's pretty much my favorite of the gang. But I wasn't loving his actor's performance this week. I didn't think he did a very good job of being scared personally. I don't think he did a bad job, but at the same time, I wasn't blown away. Like I said earlier, that I thought that there was some great kid acting and some poor kid acting. And I'll tell you right now, Marge knocked it out of the park. And in my opinion, Will maybe got to first base because he got 4 balls. That's pretty much all I can give him. But yeah, he got double scares this episode. That's kind of unusual, like for a character to get like 2 scares in one episode. But he got 2 balloons, 2 red balloons, if you want to call them Easter eggs. And I thought it was interesting too that he confides his fears to Charlotte pretty openly. I mean, she kind of has to like wiggle it out a little bit, but he tells his mom about his problems, but he doesn't want to tell his dad. He avoids telling his dad these things. And it's his mom that is still working to bridge the gap between her 2 guys here. And, even Will was kind of bored fishing. He wasn't really that into that either. So just like you, Reed, I also have like Will and Leroy connected notes because I see Will more connected to his mom than to his dad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I'm going to disagree with you, Steve.
Okay, for the first time ever.
I thought he did a great job this episode as far as conveying emotions. It wasn't just fear, but he also has to express this slight boredom at being on this fishing trip with his dad and at the same time sort of enjoying it. His dad makes him laugh when he starts picking on him about Veronica, or Ronnie. So it's like, okay, was he just enjoying time with his dad, or is he sort of embarrassed about his feelings about Ronnie? So I felt like it was in that nice gray area of tween boy who's kind of awkward. And yeah, I thought he did a good job with his scare scene. The one thing I thought was interesting about him isn't really a character thing, but it's more of he mentions that he saw his dad, and it's like that picture of when you went down in a plane. And that kind of threw me back because I thought, why would anyone have a picture of that? That doesn't seem like the kind of thing that you preserve in a family photo album. And this has become a terrible fear of his. So I wondered where he was seeing this picture.
Yeah, maybe I misunderstood because I thought that he had a bad dream about his dad going down and he had this scary image in his head of it. I
That's
didn't
what I
catch
thought.
that it was a picture. But if that's the case, then yeah, they had some really really like gung-ho journalists out there, I guess, that day.
Sophisticated technology to be able to catch that image. Like, yeah, totally.
Yeah, maybe he meant a picture in his mind, but yeah, the phrase is like that picture of when you went down in a plane. And
Yeah.
we remember last week when Dick Halloran sees that image of somebody with like their eye shot open. I guess that was Leroy. So yeah, I was just trying to figure
Okay.
out where this picture came in. If I could see maybe
Yeah.
the military took pictures when they found him, but
Yes.
I wouldn't think he would show that to his kid.
No.
And I liked his interactions with his mom too. But the only other thing I'll say is when he starts talking to his friends about adrenaline and cortisol, that also made me take a step back because I thought this seems very advanced talk for a middle school kid. I don't think I became aware of the term cortisol until a couple years ago, but apparently it was discovered in 1937, so I suppose
He reads science
Will.
books for fun. I mean, totally makes sense to me, actually. And I thought it was pretty astute. Again, I didn't question that either. Maybe I should.
Okay, well then we can move right into Leroy. Do you want to lead off for that, Steve?
Sure. Yeah. His demeanor is getting testier and testier as the series goes on. He was a really testy fellow this week. To Charlotte about her activism, a little bit with Will at first too, being kind of short at the dinner table. He kind of redeems himself as the episode progresses because, you know, he believes his son Will, and when he hears that like Will got scared, he runs to his rescue and runs outside and demands answers from the air, the ether, or whatever. But he was really testy with Halloran as well. Like it's almost like he was going to beat him up a couple times. So yeah, I'm seeing his aggression a lot more. I think they're playing on that a bit more. But I do like the fact that he believes Will. And I think a very interesting point, the last thing I really want to say about him is that he's allowed to see the red balloons. And that's pretty unusual. Usually the adults can't see the balloons and the adults can't see this kind of stuff. But it is letting Leroy see those balloons. So it's almost like a taunt in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go ahead, Reed?
I can jump in. Steve, you touched on it. One of my biggest things for both Leroy and Charlotte, who we'll get to in a second, is it is not insignificant that when they see their child afraid, they are not dismissive. And that is significant. It's significant in the work of Stephen King. It's significant in the horror genre writ large that when they see this, their immediate impulse is not in their own way. They each respond to it differently. I'll focus on Leroy since that's who we're talking about right now. His immediate response is to go and confront Dick about this, to be like, okay. And yes, you could say that part of that is because he also is a bit attuned to knowing they're looking for something kind of strange. And I can sympathize with like, okay, there is the dot connecting him knowing the military is trying to examine something, but also recognizing that his son has experienced something weird. But yeah, I mean, I so loved that when Will tells him what happened, his response was not, oh, you're just overexcited, or, you know, we just need to figure out a way to calm you down. Instead, his thing is like, what is going on? And he immediately sort of believes him. And again, Charlotte had, if not the identical response, a very similar response to their child. And it was just refreshing to see that, to see, you know, a parent in a situation like this where you're going to be saturated by adults who are not going to believe them, to be like, well, the Hanlons will. And I think that's going to be significant to the overall arc of this season. But loved that response from Leroy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like for him, father mode has been activated. And he just has this instinct to protect his child. And I think that it does strike us as significant because we got the sense when we first see them interact that this father and son have a hard time communicating.
Yeah.
And they maybe aren't always on the same page. So, yeah, I feel like it's out of the norm for Leroy to sort of give this much attention to maybe what Will's saying or doing. But now that he's gotten closer to Dick Halloran, he's having to come to terms that there are things out there beyond his comprehension. And if he wants a hope of protecting his child, he needs to seek help. However, he finds a Halloran that isn't as forthcoming with advice or help as he would like. I did find it super compelling when he grabs Dick's arm and there's this electric charge between the two of them that really made me take notice of what is going on between these two guys. Like, it could be that it's representing that when he did that, Dick Halloran felt something, but it was almost also like Leroy felt something. And because these two seem to have a connection that, you know, Leroy's experience, what it feels like when Dick Halloran is in his head. So when he grabs his arm, I wondered if Dick Halloran knows, okay, this increases our connection, and I know this guy doesn't want me in his head. So it was just, yeah. What did you guys think of that moment between them?
They're not going to be friends.
They're not what, Steve?
They're not going to be friends. Like, they work together. They might work well together, but there's definitely a vibe between these two guys at dinner and now where like they're not exactly like buddy and like vibing on each other.
But I do think they will become partners in bringing in whatever this iteration, this cycle, in either putting it to bed and putting it to sleep for its next cycle. We already know, and you guys touched on this in an earlier episode, that like, okay, like because we know this predates the actual novel It, they do not ultimately, whatever happens, they do not ultimately destroy the entity It in this iterative cycle. But I do feel that Leroy and Dick will become even perhaps uneasy allies in that fight. Yes. And to Lindsey's question, how I read that moment is I did note on the porch that Dick told him, he's like, you are not somebody I want to mess with. Like, just period. You're just not somebody I want to mess with. So I did read that moment as him, you know, when they make a physical connection, Dick, because of The Shining, probably, you know, can't help that. Well, now I see it. You know, think of his name's escaping me, but the main character of The Dead Zone. It's like physical contact can kind of exert a psychic connection between two people, even when one didn't otherwise exist. So that's kind of how I read that moment, is that, yeah, when Leroy grabs his arm, it forces a connection that Dick is already very uneasy about because he doesn't want to, you know, get on Leroy's bad side. There may be more to it, but that's my read.
I'm going to put an exclamation point on what you said about uneasy allies. I really like that concept. I like that better than them, like, you know, two good buddies going off to war. I like the uneasy allies a lot better, where they have to like learn to find common ground and may not find it, but they still have to be allies.
Right.
And I wanted to point out too that like when Will says that somebody's outside the house looking in, Leroy's first thing is to blame Charlotte. So that just kind of adds to my like, you know, dislike of Leroy this episode.
I do think that, speaking of the thing about friends, I don't think either one of these guys actually have friends. I mean, we see that Dick Halloran has these men that he pals around with, but I get the feeling he stays to himself most of the time. And Leroy has his one friend in Paulie Russo.
He's a rat this week.
I feel like these two don't let that many people in. So any time you try to, you know, Leroy got to Dick Halloran because he lost his temper at him. If you lose your temper, you care. So these guys are starting to form something. I'm not saying that they're going to go fishing. They're not going to go fishing together, but they are starting to form an understanding that I like. Moving on to him and Charlotte. And then we're going to talk about Charlotte. But I did think that was the least part I liked about him, is that his relationship, he's getting closer to Will, trying to understand him. But yeah, the things he says to Charlotte this episode are just like, what I'm doing here is too important. Don't stir the pot. And then, yeah, I did not like when his first thought is to blame Charlotte for the people watching, because it really has nothing to do with that. Leroy doesn't know that, but hey, you're supposed to work with your spouse, not against them when things go south.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't help but notice when they were talking in the kitchen and they were disagreeing with each other, Charlotte just eventually like holded him off with just a blatant, like nonchalant, like easy lie, like conversation over, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's how they ended that whole discussion. So the vibes are not good in the Fanlin household this week anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think, and maybe this could act as a kind of a transition to Charlotte, I think her conversation with, is it Rose? Who's the...
Rose, yeah.
Her conversation with Rose about like how Leroy doesn't question anything and she questions everything. I think that does make their marriage, their movement forward, like that is probably the tension that is always maybe what attracts them to each other as people, and also what creates central conflicts between them in how to navigate certain situations. Is, Leroy is very decisive and he's very like, no, I've got, this is what has to be done and everybody just needs to do what I say because that's his mode. Whereas her mode is a lot more curious and her mode is a lot more inquisitive, and she feels empowered clearly by what she, kind of the leverage that she used to get in to speak to Grogan, like that kind of name dropping of like, hey, this is the kind of power I have if I get on a telephone. She feels an autonomous individual, not easily intimidated. But I think why I found that interesting, even though I could not agree more, it is a horrible look for Leroy. I found it interesting because I did feel like that's the dynamic that both puts their marriage at risk and probably makes it work, is that push and pull and that tension with some mutual respect, but some absolutely polar opposite ways of approaching and trying to solve a problem. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Charlotte.
Yeah, I think we talked about that in the second episode, that they actually have a pretty good marriage, and we liked their interaction at dinner in that episode when they were kind of finishing each other's sentences, showing a united front in front of their son. But, Leroy, you need to keep doing that. You need to keep doing that.
Consistency is key.
when he gets like most of us, I think when he gets jarred, when he gets scared, he makes some bad decisions. So,
but he never gets scared though. Wait, what are you talking about?
That's true.
Well, I think he never gets scared for himself, but I think it's different recognizing peril for the people you love. And I think that's a different sort of thing, that it's like, it's not necessarily fear, which is necessarily a self-preservation instinct, but more this recognition. And I honestly, the half an inch of grace I will give to his reaction to Charlotte is this idea of, he shouldn't have name dropped what I'm doing is too important. That's the wrong language to try to use to win an argument. But I think what's really going on for him at that moment is he has seen what rattled his son, and he knows what Dick Halloran is at least tangentially up to. And he's kind of like, okay, like we just need to do our best to kind of just keep our heads down and lay low, because it might be more than just, racist individuals that we have to worry about in the scheme of this. That's a little bit what I picked up on.
Yeah. He could be too worried if she gets arrested, then who's going to watch after, Will while he is at work. So
arrested again. She's been arrested before.
Correct.
So, and
she's a part of the movement. Yeah,
exactly.
So Charlotte's been activated. It's not about the Paul Bunyan statue, Steve.
It's Hank Rogan. Yeah.
We find out she's been arrested before in Shreveport, Louisiana, which we sort of knew. There's loosely referenced trouble in Shreveport, but she was arrested, and she's trying to get those wheels of justice spinning for Hank.
Exactly.
I did think it was funny that she gets a letter of permission from his family, and I wondered, is that really how it works? you bring in a letter of permission, like a permission slip, and that gets you to the door. I
mean, whatever loophole you got to jump through, you jump through it. When you want to get something done, and yeah, she is getting things done this week. Because you said that she's been activated. I wrote down that she's on the move this week, looking for answers and justice. That was my take on Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, she's moving around everywhere. She filed a police report immediately after Will told her what happened in the graveyard. That's the first thing she does, is go and file a police report for it. And then she later threatens the police with those phone calls you referenced there. So, yeah, she's definitely put on her strong hat this week.
Mm-hmm. Anything you want to add else about Charlotte, Reed?
No. I think I've said my piece. I do love Taylor Page as a performer. I think she's wonderful. Like, I mean, pretty much the whole Hanlon family, they're just immediately endearing. And so I root for her automatically. I never get the feeling, even when she's kind of headfirst into danger, I never get the feeling of like, oh, don't be stupid. Like, I'm always like, get it. Like, go do your thing, you know? And I think that speaks a little bit to Page's performance, being able to, you know, to instill that confidence that even though she knows the dangers are real, she feels either the necessity or the empowerment to say like, no, this is the fight. So this is where we're going to go, which I really like.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite Charlotte quotes this episode, or probably my favorite Charlotte quote, is when Leroy tells her to don't make trouble. She says, there's trouble everywhere, Leroy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, face facts, buddy.
That was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the next couple of people I had was Chief Bowers and Hank Grogan. I didn't really have much to say about Chief Bowers about this episode, really. We saw him interact some with Charlotte, them go to toe-to-toe. Did you guys have anything to say about him, really?
I kind of do.
Go ahead.
He's a typical Derry adult who doesn't want to be involved any more than he has to be. He's kind of like me in a way, Lindsey. When you get annoyed with me, when I find like wings of like of some sort of theory out there, like based on some tiny shred of evidence, then I'll like jump on it like, oh, it's true. It's kind of what Chief Bowers does here. He finds this little tiny shred that, you know, Hank lied where he was going to be, and he found a pack of cigarettes. Therefore, Hank is guilty, so I don't want to hear anybody else talk about this case. So like he's pretty much given up on even trying to find another answer. So he's annoyed at anybody who's even bringing it up. He's like, look, the guy is guilty. And in Hank Bowers' mind, he is not Hank Bowers. Chief Bowers' mind, like Hank is guilty. And there's nothing anybody can say to change that. And is snide to Charlotte. And yeah, closed mouth dude.
So he's a J in the Myers-Briggs. You know, they have like the J and the P. The J's like to make a decision and then that's it. We're not discussing it anymore. And the P's want to keep collecting evidence.
Oh yeah, totally a J in that case. Yes, he's a Jaybird all the way.
All right. Well, I guess we'll move into Hank Grogan. Said the big secret is out. He was visiting a woman. And not just a woman, but a married woman. Not just a married woman, but a married white woman.
Mm-hmm.
Who do we think it is?
That's a good question.
Is it anyone we know?
I have a great guess. I didn't even think about this, but I got it. Ingrid. He is with Ingrid.
Okay. It could be a reason to bring Madeline Stowe in.
she's gone from completely fictional, like imaginary character to, oh no, she's that kind of trouble.
She's the married white woman. She's got to be.
Oh, she's married to the butcher. She's married to Stan the Cleaver. Yeah.
Well, that's my theory, again, based on not much.
Yeah. I don't know that we've met who he's talking about yet. And I think she will wind up being either a person of absolute insignificance, like it's just the fact that she is a married white woman, or she will be a person of tremendous prominence, that it's not just, you know, a random. I don't think it's going to be middle of the road. I think she's either going to be somebody about whom we learn very little, or it's going to be somebody who is really significant to the mythos that's building up here. That's my theory.
I have some guesses. Lindsey, do you have any guesses? I just came up with some, but I'm going to let you go first.
I mean, I don't really have any guesses. I don't know how many married white women we've met. You know, the only thing I could think of is if it's a wife of one of the police officers.
Maybe Rich's mom, perhaps. Maybe I don't know. I mean, we don't know Lily's mom's status, if she still considers herself married, divorced, widowed, or what. Could be Lily's mom. She's
a widower, yeah.
I like this, the idea, Reed. It really should be somebody like shocking and revealing. It can't just be like, you know, some random new character of the week.
Right. Yeah. Somebody of significant prominence. But But we'll see, because they could go the other route. They could go that the route of his, sort of cultural, in air quotes, transgression is the extent of the significance. So it'll be interesting to see how they play that out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're really going into racism this week too, because Hank makes a mention like, if anybody finds out, they're going to hang me on the nearest tree, and who knows what they're going to do to this woman. So, and I think this is a valid fear of Hank's, and Charlotte doesn't, tell him, oh, that's not going to happen. In fact, Hank is pretty much dependent on Charlotte alone. If it wasn't for Charlotte, he probably would go to Shawshank for life.
Yeah.
Just based on this very little crappy evidence. Because nobody's really helping him right now except for her.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess we're going to see, maybe we'll see him in Shawshank a little bit.
We see the bus for sure. Yeah. And they keep showing in the trailers, and they keep teasing us with that dang bus.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think he's definitely going to Shawshank. And I think whatever this story is will continue to play out there, at least partially behind those prison walls. I think so.
Oh, and a real fun aside, speaking of Shawshank as well, wasn't the Green Mile also... Was the Green Mile Shawshank related?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, my boss at work was guessing that there was going to be a Green Mile tie-in next week. That was his prediction.
Oh, interesting.
I guess he's completely wrong, though.
Yeah, the Green Mile was not Shawshank Prison. It was a different prison, and it was I wish I could remember exactly where it was set, but it was the death row of that specific place. But I'm fairly certain it wasn't Shawshank.
Yeah, I know people were guessing that he was going to meet John Coffey, but no.
Okay.
It's not. That rumor has already been dismissed as not going to happen because it's a different prison. But I do wonder if because Charlotte mentions that you'll go at least for a little bit, but if the wheels of justice can be pretty slow to turn, so. It could be that he ends up being there, staying there, not being able to leave. That leads to bad things for Ronnie. And if she follows the history of her character in the books, we know she ends up inside of a drain talking to Beverly Marsh. So she's another person I don't have high hopes for survival.
Nor I.
Nope.
Another prediction. Yeah.
I did, I guess, cheat and look up the Green Mile is set in Louisiana in the Cold Mountain Penitentiary. So
Luther, you're wrong. Okay, move on.
All right. So we're going to move on to General Shaw. General Shaw. Okay. Who wants to lead us off? James Remar.
I don't have much for him. I do love James Remar as a performer, but I don't have much for him this particular
Dexter's
episode.
dad.
The only thing I can really say, he's really nervous looking out the blinds, and he seems really nervous about this entrapment that he does for Taniel. But that's what he sets up. He sets up like an entrapment thing where he allows Taniel to come in and investigate and then snatches him and throws him in the brig.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And he's very open-handed with Leroy. Like he's shown Leroy everything that Leroy has asked him to. Like he showed him like the special quarters. He's bringing him in here to show him the Dick Halloran interrogation. So yeah, he has a lot of faith in Leroy, I guess I should say.
I think for me, General Shaw, I wouldn't call him a bad dude, but he is willing to do bad things. And I think that is something like he's already shown, like even to test Leroy's limits. Like, okay, I'm going to put people to break in on you and test you out for this. And I think with what he does with Taniel and with what he has shown he's capable of writ large, I just think he's a person who is willing to moral license himself with the means to an end kind of logic. So while I don't think he's necessarily a villain, I don't totally trust him.
Right. I mean, I had hopes for the guy after last week's episode. I was feeling like, okay, he's has this in his past, so he's gonna know. But he says these people take this seriously. They'll keep their vows. And then Leroy asks who they are looking for, and instead of answering, he tortures Taniel. We got a great scene, but I don't like how this was done, and he should have talked to Rose first. She's not going to be happy with him.
At all.
Okay, that brings us to Rose. What I have to say about Rose, she came to visit Charlotte. She dropped off her new furniture. She suggests that she keeps her loved ones close. Again, not earth-shattering advice. This is what we all do all the time. We also see she has entrusted her nephew with an important story that he has promised to keep safe. And I guess the only thing else I have to say about her is it was kind of weird that at the end of her story, her eyeball drops or droops. And I thought, does this signify just that this was the end of the memory, so the memory's breaking down? Or is it a connection to Marge and the eyeball?
I would say no. This whole thing was engineered by Dick Halloran. Mm-hmm. So what Dick Halloran did was freeze the moment. And it just so happened that she had her hands like this and her eye like this during the freeze to show us, the audience, that she was frozen. And, Dick comes and leers over with that creepy grin too. But it was all, his domain, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I think the creepy grin kind of mirrors Pennywise a little bit, but we're not scared of Dick Halloran necessarily. But he did seem kind of a little scary to Taniel, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this might be getting deep into the weeds, so I don't even know if there's any there. But the fact that Dick Halloran has now breached the sort of Pennywise barrier, as it were, and Pennywise is now aware, loosely speaking, of Dick Halloran, it muddies the waters of that landscape as like, okay, well, now there's a little bit, if you view it as like, well, the barrier's been breached, so now the different streams of water are converging. So it makes you wonder if part of Halloran's skittishness now is that every time he uses his ability, if it also makes whatever he's doing with it vulnerable to the intentions of it. And that's just a speculation on my part that, again, it's just, because that in that moment, I bought the moment as Halloran is constructing this. It's Halloran's choice. But at the same time, I was like, or could, it be sort of breaking in the way the scene plays out? I don't think that's what's happening, but it made me think that that kind of thing might be possible.
So you're saying that maybe it now has a target on Rose and Taniel?
Mm-hmm. If it can see that, like, basically when Halloran broke through and found Pennywise, and Pennywise did that little, like, who are you? Like, now suddenly Halloran, when he is using The Shining, which they never call it that in this show. We know who Halloran is. But when he's using his ability, does that now become a vulnerability, a weak point that Pennywise can exploit because now Halloran is on his radar? So like this little connection, it's like, oh, well, I didn't know you were doing it, but now I see you, and so now you're in my crosshairs.
That could be scary too, because I really didn't consider that until you two guys are talking about this now, because I seriously saw that as solely Dick Halloran. But if that's the case and your speculation is correct, then where'd it go? Mm-hmm. My good thought just went away.
I don't know what speculation I was just more saying when the droopy eyeball, was that, yeah. But yeah, go. I don't want to cut you off, Steve, if you're...
No, I cut myself off because I had like a great point I was going to make that will come to me in about 5 minutes, probably.
That's always how it goes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this brings us to our last two characters, which would be Taniel and Dick Halloran. So we're sort of already talking about Dick Halloran. Mm-hmm. We can kind of talk about these guys together or separate, but who wants to lead us off here?
I would love to.
Okay.
I guess the reason being is, let's see. Guys, what happened to me here? Hey, Reed,
Pennywise has got you. You got the fog.
I know, this is getting scary now.
Yeah. I kind of lost it.
All right.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, Taniel, you mentioned earlier, Lindsey, that Rose entrusted this. You called it a secret to Taniel. But I think this is like a well-known legend.
Well, no, I said a story, an important story.
Gotcha. Okay, right on. Because he recites this story pretty well for a little kid. Mm-hmm. He gives us all the details about the Shakapiwa is how you would pronounce that. And the way that Dick has to force himself into Taniel's mind, It played off a little goofy in my opinion, and I was a little confused. I think that's one of the points that I agree with you fully, Reed, that the pacing could have been much different during that particular scene. Once inside the mind and they were locked in together, I was totally on board. But up until that point, what they were trying to show us was Taniel resisting Dick reading his mind and resisting that. And the great point I was going to make, I finally got it. It's finally here. If the two worlds have been converged, Dick Halloran shining in its world, then that's really bad news for everybody because it has just seen where the 13 shards are placed around the forest. And that's a big sticking point because that's the prison that it's inside of. So if it also heard that story that Taniel just told Dick Halloran, then, the story is going to start advancing very quickly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I see that as a problem because I think that he already knows where the pillars are because he's the one that is trapped inside the pillars. So he's aware of his own prison. That's why this is how I see it anyway, that's why he interacts with people through these drains and the gutters because he's trapped under where these pipes are, under this house where the well house is. So that's where he hangs out because that's his home base. He can go here and no farther. So
Yeah.
I don't know if he's been revealed any new information. But
It seems like Taniel is about to show Dick Halloran and us like exactly. He's like, this is the house, and the house leads to the 13 points. And again, like when the little kid Daniel was showing us the vision, we could see like in the forest, like with the smoke, we could easily triangulate where all those things were using that vision. And I'm sure that it was probably like freezing his TV at the same time. Like, oh, where is that one at? That one's next to the stream.
Yeah. Well, I think that also raises the question of if Pennywise, I don't know whether or not he would want to be found because I don't think he's necessarily terribly threatened by the idea of them looking for him. And maybe if they come in there all cavalier and start busting stuff up, then maybe he can finally get out, which again, I don't even know how deep I want to go down that speculation, but it even raises the question of, well, maybe Taniel's story is not entirely Taniel's story. And maybe if Pennywise has infected this landscape of what Halloran can see and know, again, I don't know. Then maybe some of that is, then come to me. There is a moment, I don't know how deep you guys get into previews, but there is a moment in the preview for presumably the next episode. I don't know if it's the next episode or the next few episodes because it was like a mid-season. Next few, where Pennywise says the line, "You invited all your friends to come see me." And it made me wonder of like, well, is he terribly threatened by their encroachment upon him? I don't get the sense that he is. I get the sense that he's like, oh, hello, like, and wants to leverage it for his own purposes.
Well, it's kind of a repeat of history because in the story, as long as they stayed out of his territory, all was well and good. But it was when they went into his territory, he was able to feed and he got stronger and was able to leave his prison. So that it seems like that's what he's waiting for, is for everybody to come visit him.
Yeah, and then he'll unleash.
The more the merrier kind of situation.
Yeah,
maybe.
But before we leave, we're kind of getting towards the end here. I want to go back to Taniel and Dick Halloran for just a minute.
Yeah.
Is that he had the strength to try to ward off Dick Halloran, and from what we know, he doesn't have any special shine or abilities. So I thought that was interesting, and that Halloran seems very surprised about how much force it takes for him to get through. And he has to unlock Taniel's brain almost like a puzzle box that he has to open. And I just thought that scene was very well done. I know you said it didn't work for you, Steve. I thought it was terrifying, especially with the noise, with the slices. It was like he sliced into his brain. And I thought that's as a sound design choice, that was very effective because I was worried for poor Taniel about if his brain was going to get fried from this operation.
Yeah, like when Dick did the thing, we put his finger on his forehead and the rest of his hand wrapped around his mouth. I
Yeah.
was like, he means business now. This is
Yeah.
like the real deal. So watch out, Daniel.
He had the 3
Concentration.
fingers that goes to the one finger, and it's the middle finger, of course. Middle finger's
Oh,
up.
yes, baby.
But Daniel is playing with these toys, these action figures.
Oh, right.
That it was really hard to get a good look at those. Somebody in a video told me he had a bear. I don't know what significance there is of that he was
The Wendigo,
with.
perhaps.
Well, the Wendigo's not a bear, is it? It's but
I thought it was kind of a bearish kind of thing. I don't know. I'm talking about butt now.
I was glad that Joshua Ojic got this scene here. He's a good actor. Now, Dick Halloran himself, I don't know if I have too much to add to what we said. The only thing is when he's cleaning up the black spot with his boys, he has this vision of his grandma. And she tells him to keep the lid on tight. So what did you guys think of his scene in the woods before? We already talked about how Leroy showed up and they had this electric connection, but there was this scene in the woods before that happens where he sees his grandma and some visions of things happening behind a closed door. What did you guys get out of that?
The keep the lid on tight thing made me think again about Dr. Sleep once again, because they talk about, taking your fears and putting them inside of a box and locking them away. So I think that's the lid that she's referring to. That's just my guess. It seems like an educated guess, but it is just a guess. And yeah, I said before that we got like 4 scare scenes, but really we got like 5 if you want to count Dick Halloran's vision and seeing his grandma here. There's a lot of real metaphysical stuff happening in this episode. That's like 5 scenes to my count.
Yeah. Any thoughts about Halloran's vision, Reed?
I think the only thing that I just kept going back to is just that, we know so little about individual lore from Halloran other than the mention that he had in, surrounding the black spot, and then that his grandmother is the one who sort of taught him about his ability and taught him what to do with it and ostensibly how to hone it. So I think this show is taking that to a place of that maybe that was a kind of a horrific or traumatic experience for him rather than a nurturing, caring one, which I kind of always assumed it was.
Yeah, me too.
That maybe it was more nightmarish for him to learn about that than the sort of gentility with which he expressed it to Danny in the novel The Shining. So yeah, that is an interesting kind of take on it. One thing I will mention, going back a little bit, when you mentioned the bear toy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't totally know that this is a solid Easter egg because bears are ubiquitous, especially with indigenous sort of culture and iconography. But there is Shardik from the drawing of the 3 that might be a vague, distant reference to. But I don't know. It doesn't feel
another Easter egg. Congrats.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't feel like a totally tight enough connection for me to really be like, oh, that's what that means, because bears can mean a lot of different things. But I did note, I was like, well, there's a pretty prominent bear in the drawing of the 3 that has some significance. So maybe, who knows? But
and the same doorways as well from that exact same story. So
from
that's
the same story. Yeah. Yep.
Same scene as well. So I don't know, Reed. I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
I thought it was, it was just kind of interesting to consider what a young Indigenous boy would be playing with. We have our games we played when we were little that now are like totally inappropriate, like cowboys and Indians and things like that. Right. So this little boy it makes me think of that Stephen Graham Jones, his graphic novel series about killing Christopher Columbus, I think it's called. I've read only one volume, but it's a speculative, I don't know if you've seen this one, Steve, but it's a speculative series about time travelers who go back to the past and they decide they are going to kill Christopher Columbus to avoid the bad things that happened to them. So yeah, Righteous. It's like, what was Daniel? What is the thing that he imagines here as a little boy?
It looked like he was just having a ball playing soldier to me. So I like the deep dive into the action here.
Yeah. And we got to see this origin story on screen. I think this is maybe the first time we really see it origin story on screen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm.
We've heard it told. We know what the story is from the books, but they imbibe it with this new name, the Glue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the story is, interestingly enough, this story ends up being another story with kids versus adults. The
Yep.
adults decide we don't have enough weapons to fight this thing off anymore, so we will leave. The kids decide they know better, disobey mommy and daddy and
Okay.
leave in the
Yeah.
middle of the night to go investigate the caves on their own, and everything goes south.
Yeah. Because of the kids, or
Yeah.
yep.
But yeah, they had these visions of perhaps the Wendigo, and then they had this priest, which, yeah, that would be something that would be scary to indigenous people, a Christian priest, very sad, and a baby Jesus coming out and...
Yeah. I thought it was a baby Chucky. That's what it looked like to me. And I thought it was really funny too that like the Native Americans, like they're like, you're going to face what you're scared of, and the first person had a moose, and then everybody after that it was a bunch of white people. Like, this is what we're really scared of. I was like, that kind of clocks. This makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
On brand.
Well, that brings us to the ending, and I had a question about this ending. So in the ending of the episode, Daniel shows Dick Halloran the Neibolt house, and he says, this is where the pillars are kept. And that confused me a little bit, because in the vision, we see that the pillars are surrounding Derry, but he says they're underneath the Neibolt house. So I was like, all those pillars are underneath there, or does he just mean the access point is under the house to get to these?
That's what I
he
got.
means.
Yeah,
Yes.
I got it as like, that's the crux. That's the central sort of location. Like, if you're looking for where you will have access to all of these different things, it centers around the Neibolt house, is how I took it to mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've always, understood the Neibolt house was also like the center of like the municipal sewage system, which, that makes a lot of sense as well, because that would have to be in the center of town to like connect everything. So it's really neat that it also connects like this prison as well, because we've always known that the sewers have been, Pennywise's lair, and that's how he gets around. So it's even cooler knowing that like that's actually all he can do, because he can't get past that point.
Right. Well, I know I had a spot saved out for scare scenes, but I feel like we've talked about them all already. So I'm not sure if there's anything else we need to say about those.
Nope.
I think we're ready then to rate our episode from 1 to 5 turtles. So
All right.
Would you like to go first, Reed?
I can. I will mention, sorry, not to rewind, I will mention, just because I teased it at the beginning of this conversation, the moment that made me jump was Will in the river. Like, I should have known better, but I was so focused on that fish that when the hand came up, I was like, okay, all right, yes, that got me. So just jumped real big. Yeah, so this is rating this episode in number of turtles. So this one was a bit of a downturn for me from previous episodes. Not that there wasn't great stuff in it, but it felt a little bit like stage setting for me. So this one's going to land for me at more of a 3 out of 5 turtles. I enjoyed the episode, obviously have a lot to praise and a lot to point to that I appreciate, but didn't invigorate me the way some previous episodes had done. So, yeah.
I'll go next, I suppose. And I'll say that my scariest scene that I didn't like the most was the bandsaw scene, where she decided to try to bandsaw those googly eyes off.
Oh my gosh.
That was completely horrible, and that was my scare of the week. And we'll find out what scared Lindsey the most next. But for my turtle rating, though, I'm in the exact same place you are, Reed. I went 3 out of 5 turtles for the basic reason that the show is steadying along, and it's keeping its pace. It definitely hasn't lost me. It's keeping me interested, but I'm not like shouting from the rooftops about it. I'm not I'm not forcing people that I work with to watch it like I do some other shows.
Right.
So for that reason, I'm just going to stick right in the middle there. 3 out of 5 turtles, Lindsey.
Okay. Well, that makes me the oddball. I'm giving this one 5 turtles this week.
Whoa, this is the 5?
Yeah.
Coming in hot. Oh,
I
wow.
love that Losers Club, man.
I loved that scene. I loved the interaction between Leroy and Dick. I liked what Charlotte was doing. She was gone gung-ho, civil rights warrior. I thought it was a great episode. I mean, the weakest part was the kids.
Yeah.
But then when you bring in Marge, I think that, I don't know if it scared me, but I was certainly squeamish. I was like, oh, the eyeball horror, please no. And it's Roger Rabbit eyeballs,
Oh my
and
gosh.
That makes me extremely happy, Lindsey, that this was 5 out of 5 for you. I love that you loved it. And it makes me want to give it a higher rating. I'm not going to. I love that you loved it. My wife, Heather, said the same thing, too. She said it was the best episode so far.
Wow.
And so chicks dig this episode, man. That's all there is to it.
Heather has impeccable taste, I'm telling you.
You always say that.
All right, well, we're on now ready for MVP character. Each of us gets to choose our MVP character of the week who really made the episode for us, either by their performance being really good or the one that made it the most enjoyable for us.
Will you go first this time, Lindsey, since Reed went first and then I went?
Sure. Okay, well, I actually had a different person, but I changed it at the last minute. I am giving mine to Charlotte Hanlon.
Legit?
Yeah, Taylor Page. She goes to the station twice. She goes to visit Luella Grogan, reaches out to the community. She stands up to this white cop, stands up to her husband, befriends the great protective Derry, and manages to be a good mom to her son. She is a busy woman, but she's doing a heck of a job as a mom and a friend and a community member.
That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I love that.
Love it.
How about you, Reed?
My MVP is by a landslide. I have to give it to Marge. I feel like she encapsulates in her singular couple of scenes everything that I would praise about what the show is doing well. Performance-wise, I think she's the MVP. She gets the biggest and most bad scare of it all, the peril and the torment, but also the complex emotionality of it. How she as a character, her motivations are probably the most complex because Lily is a mystery to her right now, and she doesn't understand everything that's happening with her friend, and she's torn between these two competing goals where I think she genuinely cares for Lily. You could see that even when she sets up the prank to begin with, she's immediately conflicted about what she's done. So she still deeply cares for her. And I think the complexity of those motivations make her very interesting as a character. So yeah, by a landslide, my MVP is Marge.
Man, I'm last here and I agree with you both. My runner-up MVP for this week, my runner-up was Charlotte, because she did the most as a character. She got the most accomplished this week. And I think there's no denying that. But my number one MVP is just like Reed. It's Marge for those exact same reasons, a wide range of emotions from this actress. She had to go from dour, sad to excited to pretending to be a friend to pretending to be. I mean, there was layers to what she was doing as an actress. So really, my MVP is more so for the actress of Marge than the character of Marge.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's fair. Great. So what do we think's going to happen next? Anything we haven't said yet? I have a list.
I have a list too.
I did not make notes, but I will not do what I did beforehand. I will just, if you don't mind, I'll lead off with one. Big thing is I definitely feel like what happens next is the story of the theater death of the kids is going to converge with the investigations of the military and Dick Halloran. They are going to converge by way of the Hanlon family, that Leroy is going to arrive at the Neibolt house one way and Charlotte is going to arrive at it a different way.
Neat.
Yeah, I think that they are going to converge by the disparate paths. Charlotte by investigating the Grogan story, and Leroy by what's going on with Dick and everything like that. And I think they are both going to converge on the Neibolt house. I think that's going to happen.
I can see the scene right now. They both show up. What are you doing here? What are you doing here?
Yakety sax begins playing as they run around.
Oh, I definitely see that being the immediate future of what happens next, because they ended it with the house. So obviously General Shaw is now going to be, we need to go to that house and find the thing, and it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad.
It is. Yep. And speaking of Shaw too, one of my predictions is they're going to have to do something with Daniel. They can't just keep holding him. So they're going to have to let him go. and he's going to go back to Rose and, let her know what happened to like his mind with Dick Halloran. So that's going to get the story going forward. Charlotte's on the radar of it now. I'm sure of it because she's been snooping around everywhere. So I'm worried about Charlotte now more so than anybody else because she's an adult that doesn't act like other adults in Derry. So she seems like a threat to it. Mm-hmm. And then my last small point, which I think is kind of like a gimme, is I think that Marge is going to join the gang. I think that Marge is going to be friends with everybody next episode.
Yeah. Well, we've seen it in the trailers, but they keep putting it off. Like in the trailer for last week, even they showed her going into the caves with them with her eye patch on. And then it's like, no, not yet. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to say all mine, Reed. I'm going to be the Reed Lackey of this episode.
Go for it.
I said Rose tries to stop Shaw, but you mentioned maybe they're letting Taniel go, or it could be just Rose finds out where Taniel's being held and she goes to visit him. Ronnie Grogan's a goner. Lily will end up in Juniper Hill. Ronnie's going to be killed. Rich deported, and Will burned in fire. I mean,
deported? He's a kid.
Man.
Okay, I'm just trying to think of what I'm saying. What I'm seeing here in the future is we know that Pennywise isn't defeated, so our kids are not going to make it.
Yeah.
We could hope for, I guess the best we could hope for them is that they'll put it to rest and everything will be okay. But I feel like because Pennywise is not defeated at all, by the end of this season, it's going to be a bad ending for everybody. Maybe that's very cynical for me, but what I noticed about Rich is that he, when he comes in the office and tries to talk to Chief Bowers is just like, who's this kid? Like, he's not even interested in listening to him. And I have a feeling that's because of his heritage. This is a racist town. So
I didn't even think about that, actually.
Yeah, like he's in the country and they're already upset that they think the Cubans and the Russians are making these weapons. So I think that he's not going to be welcome. He and his family are not going to be welcome in this town, and it's going to be bad. And that's really upsetting because Rich is such a funny, lively character. We don't want to see him go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would I be okay in Derry? Like I'm Italian heritage. So would I be okay, or would they hate me too?
I think everybody hates everybody in Derry. They just don't want to admit it.
Oh man. All right.
I'll go ahead. I don't know how often I'll be able to be back on the show, so I'm going to go ahead and just throw the gauntlet down with some very specific predictions.
Oh boy.
In the trailer, we saw Pennywise saying, "You invited all your friends." I'm going to make a prediction right now that he is saying that to the character of Will. I don't know how that's going to play out, but I think he is saying that line to the character of Will.
Okay.
And I think his other line, I've always wondered how you taste. I think he is saying that to Lily. And I am going to predict that either in the next episode or somewhere in the next couple of episodes, I'm going to double down on my prediction that Pennywise is specifically manipulating the visions of Dick Halloran in some way, or that he has infected the visions of Dick Halloran, and that what Dick is seeing is not necessarily the pure, true, what he needs to be seeing or what he's after seeing. I think it's in his head. So
Dick Halloran was kind of acting creepy at the end of Taniel's.
He sure was.
He had that weird grin on his face. That's not normal for him at all.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
And he's always got that vibe anyway. Like, all the other dudes seem like pretty loose, and even his haircut's not as good as everybody else's. So yeah.
All right. Did you have any other predictions, Steve, for the show?
That Dick Halloran gets a normal haircut.
That's it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So plugs or announcements you guys have?
Oh, this is fodder for Reed. Come on, man. This is what you're here for.
Well, yeah, I'll just say check us out over at the Fear of God podcast. You guys are friends of our show, and we can't wait to have you back at some point in the near near future. But yeah, check us out over at the Fear of God podcast. We are, as this episode will air, we are currently on a quasi hiatus of regular standard episodes, which will last through the end of the year. There will be things in the feed. We have various interviews coming up that will drop to the feed, both with creative filmmakers and some other fun things that are coming up. So there are things happening in the feed, but we will resume standard episodes after the first of the year. But yeah, come check us out over at the Fear of God podcast. We have a pretty massive, I say that without hyperbole, we have a fairly massive catalog you can get lost in. So yeah, come check us out.
And there's a lot of Stephen King-ish episodes on your show, I would say, probably, right?
Well, there better
there
be.
is. In 2019, because of King's, sort of loose association with 19 being a significant number, we did a lot of episodes in 2019, specifically on Stephen King. We've covered a lot of the majors, a lot of the biggies, but there's still a wealth that we haven't gotten to yet. So yeah, there's a lot over there.
Okay. Steve, what do you want to say?
Listeners, if you're still listening now at this point, then you're one of the superstars. Give us a shout over at sweetchildofTime.com or an email at sweetchildoftimepod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you want a transcript of the show, Lindsey's always providing those over at oneofmystories.com. And if you want to support the show, then please check us out at Patreon. James's Patreon. He's our editor and he's our lead guy basically around here. If you go to patreon.com/MLM pod, that's like MLMpod.com, like multi-level marketing, but it's not. It's Marshland Media. Yeah, check us out there. You can get on the Discord.
Okay. And for my plugs this week, I want to share that I just found out there is a opera version of The Shining. Just found out tonight.
Wow.
Don't know if you can watch it.
Want to see that?
It got really good reviews. It came out in 2016 in Minnesota. So I was I was looking at people who played Dick Halloran, and they said such and such played Dick Halloran in the opera of The Shining. I'm like, what? So I couldn't find a video of the complete opera, but you can see previews of the opera with the best scenes from the Shining opera. It was interesting to see that play out. Also wanted to shout out a couple of Indigenous stories that, after this episode, there's a movie I really enjoy called Wild Indian, and the kid version of Taniel is in that movie.
Cool tie-in.
This is currently playing on the wonderful network of Tubi. Tubi,
yeah.
And this is a sort of, what do you call it, a multi-time period movie that goes through different decades into people's lives and how their stories intersect and they keep coming back together. One of them is fully embracing his Indigenous identity, and the other one is sort of hiding in the white culture, and they both experienced the same childhood event together but chose different paths, and how their choices impact their lives and their contentment with their circumstances. And I just think that's a great movie. It was a Sundance premiere. Also, of course, the book Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Grant Jones is getting a lot of great reviews for a good reason. I have listened to it on audiobook. I had problems with the audiobook, and I'm now reading it, and I feel like I'm able to enjoy the voice and the sarcasm of one of the lead characters, or the unreliableness of his dialogue, let's say, of his narration. He's an unreliable narrator, but I wasn't able to pick up on that until I got the actual book rather than the audiobook. Usually I do audiobooks, but it's a strong recommendation for me if you want another great Indigenous story.
I'm on board. I'm enthused about this Wild Indian you were just talking about, because it sounds like a Sweet Child of Time thing right there. So
it's a great flick. Yeah, it's a great flick.
I've never heard of it until now, so I'm intrigued.
And I couldn't remember if you guys mentioned this last week, but the actor who plays Taniel was also prominently featured in The Long Walk, which is another Stephen King adaptation.
Oh, Lindsey knows this.
Yep.
All right. So unless you guys have anything else, I'm ready to close.
Same.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone, for joining in this episode of Welcome to Derry. May all the clowns you meet be kind. May all the friends you've met be kept safe in your hearts. And we hope to see you all next week for episode 5, titled Neibolt Street.
Oh, boy.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.